we're going to get started with this. John Maxwell said this. He said, if you ask me what's the one thing that you can do to be more successful, he said, I'd say it's to learn to communicate. Now, there's only one thing that stands between you and greater success in your personal life. It isn't knowledge. It's not skills. It's not experience. It's not talent. It's your ability to connect with people. And in a world where success is increasingly dependent on communication and collaboration, you've got to learn how to connect with people. And the other side of this, and if you saw some of the promotion information I sent out there, did you know that 50% of employees are disengaged? That means that they don't feel emotionally connected to their manager, to their team, to their company, or even to the work that they do. And disengaged associates are less effective and less productive. And so engagement matters. And there's an engagement definition that I've used as a working definition for years, and it's this. And I'll say it a couple of times just so hopefully you all get this. Engagement is this. It's the level of discretionary effort someone is willing to put forth based on their relationship with their direct manager. I'll say that again. It's the level of discretionary effort someone is willing to put forth based on the relationship with their direct manager. People thrive where trust exists. They have pride in their work, and they experience this sense of team. They're willing to put anything into making the organization work if they actually have those three things. Where those three things don't exist, that's trust, pride, and team, that camaraderie that goes around it, people become less effective and less productive. Now, so you might be wondering, what the heck does engagement have to do with connecting? Well, it's got absolutely everything to do with connecting. John Maxwell says this is one of his laws from 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. He says, you have to connect with someone's heart before you ask for their hand. That's a simple thing. And I've seen it at play at work so many different times. I've seen where leaders didn't do that, and I've seen where leaders did do it. But as leaders, we must learn not only to communicate, but we've got to learn how to connect with them as well. And the material I'm going to take you through today is based on John Maxwell's book, Everyone Communicates, Few Connect. And a simple book, 10 chapters, but I want to credit him for all the information we're going to go through today. And the key today is going to be you. Hey, let's get started here. So people cannot succeed in life without communicating effectively. It's not just enough to work hard. It's not just enough to do a great job. To be successful, you've got to learn how to communicate with others. And there's 4 questions that I want to ask you in terms of communicating and ultimately connecting with people and getting that deeper level with them. But there's 4 questions I want you to think about. Number 1, have you ever gotten frustrated while making a presentation because people just weren't getting it? You ever been there before? Number 2, have you ever wanted your boss to understand how much value you add back to the organization and want to ask for a promotion or a raise? Have you ever been there before? Or if you have children, have you ever wanted them to listen so you could help them make a good choice or decision? And the last question is this, have you ever wanted to improve a relationship with a friend or make a positive impact in the community? All those questions really land on communication and how you connect with others. And if you can't find a way to connect effectively, you won't be able to reach your potential. You won't succeed in the way you desire, and you'll be forever frustrated. So the question you got to ask is, what's the secret to it then? Well, it's in connecting. It's all about connecting. And I want to lead you into this first principle. Connecting increases your influence with every situation. Connecting is absolutely crucial for leaders. Now, here's the definition of connecting, the working definition that we'll use today. Connecting is the ability to identify with people and relate to them in such a way that increases your influence with them. Let me read that again. Connecting is the ability to identify with people and relate to them in such a way that increases our influence with them. In leadership, John Maxwell says, leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Now, presidential historian Robert Delick says that successful presidents, referring to the slide you see on the screen, exhibit 5 skills and qualities that enable them to achieve things that others, quite frankly, don't. And those 5 skills and qualities are vision. They can describe where they're going. Pragmatism, they have a practical approach. Consensus building, they can persuade people to come along. Charisma, they can connect with others on a personal level, and that's so important. And lastly, trustworthiness. That trustworthiness means that they do what they say they will do. Okay, really good. We're going to keep moving, but that's the point there, is that Your ability to connect with others will determine your leadership effectiveness. Now, it all starts with attitude. Here's a question for you. Do you value people? The ability to connect with others begins with the understanding of the valuing of people. Jim Collins, who wrote the book Good to Great, said this. He said, those who build great companies understand that the ultimate throttle on growth for any company is not markets, it's not technology, it's not competition or products. It's the one thing above all others. It's the ability to get and keep enough of the right people. And you do that by connecting with people. And so the ability to connect with people and the understanding of how you value them is so important. That's the mindset, the attitude, and that's where you start. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you a study that was done. There were 16,000 executives in this study done by this group called Telemetrics. And they found the correlation, there's a direct correlation between achievement and the ability to care for and connect with people. So there's a direct correlation there. And on the screen, you see up on the 3 columns, you see high achievers, average achievers, and low achievers. And I've got 4 different rows I'm going to build real quick for you, but I want to walk you through these, and you'll see the results of the study that they had. Number 1, high achievers care about people as well as profits. Believe it, you can care about people as well as profits. Average achievers in the study concentrate on production. Low achievers are preoccupied with security. High achievers, they view subordinates optimistically. Average achievers focus more on status. And then the low achievers, they show a basic distrust of any subordinate. You can move back over to the high achievers, thinking about advice. High achievers seek advice from those under them. Average achievers only seek from up above. And then low achievers don't seek advice at all. And then lastly, so important, high achievers do this. They actively listen. That empathy that we talked about just a moment ago, the curiosity to know what other people think and asking them questions and listen to that is so critical. Average achievers, well, they only listen, again, to superiors. And low achievers, well, they avoid communication and they rely on that old trusty, policy manual. It's not a good thing. So that's the correlation between the two. And you can clearly see that if you want to have an advantage in working with people, you need to learn how to connect. And before we move into the practical steps about connecting with one-on-one, in a group, or in an audience, I'll share with you in a second, I want to show you some connecting signals. You may have always wondered, how do I know somebody's actually connecting with me? How am I connecting with them? What are those signals I can look for? So there's 9 of them that John Maxwell calls out. And walk through these real quick. 1, are they showing extra effort? Are people going the extra mile? Number 2, unsolicited appreciation. Are they actually coming up and saying positive things to you and to others? Maybe unguarded openness. They demonstrate trust. Increased communication. They express themselves more openly and readily. Enjoyable experiences. They feel good about what they're doing. Emotional bondedness. They display a connection on an emotional level. Synergy. Well, there's 2 synergies here. One's positive and one's growing. Positive synergy. Their emotional batteries are charged after being together. And then growing synergy. Their effectiveness is greater than the sum of the contributions. And lastly, if you experience and you see a thing called unconditional love, that's where they're accepting without reservation. You know you're connecting with them. So there's 9 there. Those all the way from extra effort to unconditional love. Here's kind of the climax, if you will, for this section of our training today and our webinar. Principle number 1, connecting increases your influence in every situation. That was the number 1. That's the first principle in the book. That's where we started. And the concept is this, is that the smaller the group, the more important to connect. And maybe you found this, I found this to be true, but 80 to 90% of connecting occurs one-on-one. Therefore, it's more important for us to be able to connect one-on-one than any other. But the good news is if you learn the one-on-one connections, that needle can be pulled all the way through into a group and then also into an audience. So they're not mutually exclusive in all these things I'm going to share with you real quick. But I'm going to show you just some tidbits and some tips about how to connect one-on-one in a group or with an audience applying this principle. What I'm going to ask you to do, we're about to go in a breakout. Take note of one of these that you would like to apply because we're going to send you in the breakout and have you talk as a small group about that, about applying that and what kind of a difference it might make for you. Okay, so one-on-one, One-on-one, here it is. Talk more about the other person and less about yourself. That's talk less, listen more. Number 2, bring something of value, such as a helpful story, a quote, a web link, etc., something to add value to their life. And lastly, and I've seen the power of this, I hope you have too, at the end of every conversation, ask them a simple question. Say, how can I help? That's so powerful. It's amazing how many people that I talk to that I'll always end with that question. And they'll look at me and go, and I've had people come and say, hey, people don't normally ask me that, let alone follow up. That's the other important part. If you ask how you can help and they say, follow up, you're in trouble. Follow up is key. How about in a group? How about some ways to connect in a group as you increase your influence in every situation? Look for ways to compliment people in the group. Also figure out ways to add value to that group that you're in. Always defer credit and accept blame. Don't take credit when the group succeeds, and don't cast blame when it fails. And lastly, find ways to help the group celebrate wins. Help them celebrate. And lastly, we went from one-on-one, in a group, and with an audience. There are 3 things you could do with an audience to build on these things. If you're in front of an audience, you want to connect with them, convey your enthusiasm, your excitement about you being there, that you're pumped about being with them in front of them. Also, share with them that you want to add value to them. Share with them that that's your motive, your desire. And then also, if you're in front of an audience applying this principle, let them know that somehow that they've added value back to you. All right. So, hey, here's the deal here. This is connecting is all about others. Connecting is all about others. And you've heard this phrase, there's no I in team, but I've always said this, and it was funny when I saw this cartoon, there is a me in team. There is an M and an E. I don't know if you knew that or not, pay attention, but there is a me in team. And the question here is why do people focus on themselves instead of others? If connecting is about others, why do people tend to focus on themselves and they're probably not good at connecting? Well, there's 4 reasons, John Maxwell says. One is immaturity. Now, the opposite of immaturity is maturity. Immaturity simply is the ability to see and act on the behalf of others. So you might be immature. Number 2, you might have an ego. Imagine that. Look, pointing right at myself, an ego. 4 reasons why people don't connect and they focus more on themselves. 1 is immaturity. 2 is ego. And the last 2 quickly are failure to value everyone. Again, that's word value again. And what I mean by this is to add value to others, you must first value others. To add value to others, you must first value others. And lastly, number 4 is insecurity. People are way too often place too much focus on themselves because they are insecure. And there's 3 questions that people are going to ask as we're winding down on this whole thing. There are 3 questions that people are going to ask of you when you're trying to connect with them. They're going to ask you, do you care for me? Do you care? Mutual concern creates connection between people. Have you heard the phrase before? Theodore Roosevelt originally said it. He said this, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So whenever you can, help people understand that you genuinely care about them, and you can then open the door to communication, connection, and interaction. Question number 2, can you help me? Nobody likes to be sold, but everybody wants help. If you want to get somebody's attention, show them how you can help them. And the last question on there is, can I trust you? Trust is absolutely vital in business. As a leader, it's vital in life. And I'd leave you with this on this slide. If I were you, I would spend time trying to think from others' perspectives and explore what's important to them. That's how you connect with them. You can connect with people if you're willing to get off your own agenda, to think about others, and to try and understand who they are and what they want. So 3 questions. Do you care for me? Can you help me? Can I trust you? And this is the concluding slide before we move to that one thing, one takeaway. It's the same idea here. We just went through the principle. Connecting is all about others. We're going to reveal one-on-one, in a group, and with an audience, and briefly walk those down, walk you through those. If there's a takeaway that you'd like to have on this, write it down. All this content is also in the book, if you're interested in going and purchasing John's book as well. So on one-on-one, connecting is all about others. Really important here. This is where it comes to values. Again, big word here, right? Values. But know what other people value by being a great listener. Listen to them. Find out what they value. And then in order to connect with them, share your own similar values. Those are shared values. And then Build your relationship on those values. That common ground is what you're looking for to connect with people. Their values, our values, what's shared, and what's our common ground. Number 2, in a group, key here, discover and identify the strengths of each individual, and then acknowledge those strengths and the potential that they bring to the group. Invite input. When you're in front of a group and connecting with people and a leader, you want to ask their opinion. You want to honestly listen to what they have to say. And if you do that and enable the strength leadership, finding what the strengths are of each member of the group and putting them in position to lead from that strength, you will connect with them. And the last thing is with an audience. If you want to connect with an audience, applying this connecting is all about others. First, make sure when you're in front of the group, express appreciation when you open with them. Next, do something special. What I mean by that is if you created special content for your connecting when you're in front of an audience with them and you've prepared something for them, let them know it, right? It doesn't have to be just out of a can, but let them know that you prepared something special. Next, see everyone as a 10. This is so important, expecting a great response from them. See them at their highest level of potential, reaching that potential, and see them as a 10. And lastly, finish by telling them how much you enjoyed being with them. You want to connect with them on that level. So it's not just about communicating, it's about connecting. So that's the connecting is all about others, one-on-one, in a group, and with an audience. Hey, we're going to wind things up. Just 2 more things. Don't go yet. One, I want to say thank you so much for participating today and being part of this. This is the second of a series. I'm going to do this all next year and have fun with it. But next year, beginning in January, my first webinar of the year is going to be on core values. We talked about values today, right? I'm going to talk about core values, and that's going to be on January the 12th. It's tentative right now, but that's what I'm planning on. And then if you're interested, I will be seeking folks to join me on a mastermind around everybody or everyone communicates, you connect, which is this book right here that John, I don't know if you can see it through the thing right here, that John wrote, but we're going to do a mastermind, which is a deep dive in the material, which will help you develop your skills. Hey, if you like today, refer a friend or invite a friend to the next one. Let them know what's going on. Like my Facebook note or page and or connect with me on LinkedIn. That's great if you haven't done that already. And then as a bonus, I'll add you onto my subscription for my blog.